Secret of the Andes by Anne Nolan Clark. Chapter 15. The Family. Kusi sat in the shade of the church wall. Above him the white doves cooed to their young in the bell tower nests. His heart beat against the golden sandals he carried in his poncho folds. He had put the sugar cane away in his coca bag and was thoughtfully chewing hard, parched corn kernels, his midday meal. The two great doors of the church were open, and from its candlelit, dim interior came the muffled sounds of prayer, came the musky odor of incense. People went in and out, in and out, in and out. Men and women, children and babies, rich and poor, Indian and white, they went into the church to lay their burdens at the feet of their God. They came out again, rested, to take up the work that God had given them. Kusi watched them. Something told him that he would find his family here. A thin white dog came to share the shade with him, to scratch his fleas, and to watch the people. The dog reminded him of Sanka. Softly he spoke to him. Sanka, Sanka, come here, come here. The dog did not answer to the name or the words. He sat watching the people. An open carriage drew up at the church steps, and the young man who was driving jumped down from his seat to help the lady within to alight. Kusi's eyes grew blacker and deeper as the lady came tripping daintily up the worn steps. Her ruffled skirts fluttered in the wind like flower petals. Her dark eyes were full of laughter as they peeked out through the lacy edges of her mantilla. She must be very good, the young boy thought, because she was so beautiful. Perhaps, a small hope whispered in his heart, perhaps, but no. No, such a lady would have no need of a mountain boy for brother. Kusi turned his eyes away, lest the lady see loneliness in them. A beggar inched toward the beauty as she daintily stepped into the church. Kusi looked at the beggar with contempt. The old man's rags were hanging in shreds and gray with filth. The old man's hair was long and tangled and matted, and his shrewd eyes were sharp and keen. He saw Kusi's glance and instantly shuffled toward him, whining the beggar's prayer. Kusi offered him his bag of parched corn, but the beggar refused it. He wanted coins, not corn. The thin dog growled, and the beggar moved on, nearer to the church door, nearer to those who might pass by with money to give. Kusi turned his back. His heart felt sick with disgust. Poverty, he knew, and hunger, and cold. But to beg for it? Never. Unconsciously, the boy reached up to touch a golden earplug. Sign of royalty, the minstrel had said, but Kusi was not thinking of what the minstrel had said. He was thinking of his heart's desire. He was thinking of his folk and a hearth fire and family devotion. He was watching the people. Two round, fat, roly-poly monks waddled past. They looked like two perky brown daybirds approaching a water pool. Their brown robes swished against their sandaled feet. Their eyes were lowered. They fingered the beads of their rosaries hanging from thick white cords at their waists. Their lips were moving as they silently whispered their prayers. Their shaven heads were round and red and glistening in the bright, hot sunlight. God was their father and the saints their brothers. They needed no earthly family. They would not want him. The young boy sighed. Heat haze danced on the hot stones of the pavement and made rippling rainbows before his tired eyes. He was not used to people or cities. He was used to mountains, remote and cold and still. He leaned his head against the hot wall and wished for mid-afternoon to come with the comfort of its shadows. What was Misty doing? Did he know why Kusi stayed within the city walls? Kusi touched the golden sandals hidden safe against his heart. They were his omen. They were his sign. He remembered the peace of the mountains, yes, but he remembered too the lonely, endless days there. Kusi sat up straighter. He was all intent now. An Indian woman had rounded the corner of the church wall. She was coming toward him. Wide purple woolen skirts flared out from tiny brown feet. Her bright alpaca-woven shoulder shawl was pinned with a long, pointed silver spoon pin. Her upturned red embroidered hat framed a slender brown face, beautiful, but searching and sad. Memory stirred within the boy. Was this the woman of the Ayllu? Was this the woman who had given him food and called him son? But no, this one was older. This woman was grieving a grief that would not let her rest. But she looked like the woman of the Ayllu. She looked like the woman he had dreamed about. Perhaps she too was searching for home and loved ones. Perhaps she would want him as her son. What could he say that would make her know? Kusi's heart beat wildly. His throat was dry. No words came. The woman trotted past him, her feet making pat-pat noises on the worn stones before the open church door. Then she turned. She had seen him. She stopped in wonder, one hand covering her mouth in the Indian way. An amazed exclamation burst from her lips. "Golden earplugs," she cried. "Golden earplugs! You belong. You are one of them." Kusi stood up. He moved a step closer to the woman. They looked deep into each other's eyes. This one was older than the Ayllu woman, but very, very like her. Finally, the woman spoke again. "You are so like Titu," she said. And then, shaking her head, she added, "Titu. He was older when he ran away." The woman began to walk away, but Kusi could not bear to let her go. "I am Kusi," he said quickly, desperately. Anything to have her stay. "I know," she answered sadly. "I know you are the one that Tito gave them in his place." She started on again, then half turned, saying over her shoulder, "Once I was the mother chosen. Titu was my son, but he ran away. I search, but I never find him. Tell Chudo." The woman did not finish. Hurriedly, she rounded the corner, the way she had come. Kusi was stunned. Dumbly he stood, making no sound, making no movement, watching her go. A hand lightly touched his shoulder. Kusi, startled, turned wide black eyes up to the laughing dark ones of the Spanish beauty who had come in a carriage. She had seen him then as she tripped light-heartedly into the church. Could it mean? But Kusi could not think. He was still numbed from his encounter with the Indian woman. He could only wait. The woman smiled at him and said in Spanish, "Here, beggar boy, is a centavo for luck." Kusi could not understand her words, but he understood her tone of voice and the coin she handed him. Anger froze his blood and pounded in his temples. The centavo rolled across the steps, and the beggar crouching there snatched it in haste to hide it away in his filthy rags. Kusi did not wait to see the Spanish lady helped into her carriage. Blindly he turned and bumped unseeing into a laughing group of campesino children. When he tried to push his way clear again, the father laughingly pushed him back into the group. "There you go," he roared playfully in a mixture of Indian and Spanish. "Trying to get yourself lost? I'd rather bring all the goats in my flock to market than half this many children." He turned to the woman beside him. "Mamita, please Help me keep them together." The woman laughed. They were all in holiday mood and willing to be pleased. The children giggled and whispered, "Papita thinks you are one of us. He can never remember how many we are." "How many are you?" Kusi asked. He wondered wildly if all this was really happening or if he was having a night-long dream. The children began counting and naming themselves, everyone talking at once and nobody listening. It sounded to Kusi like, "There's Jose, Maruca, Francisco, Carlita, Pedro. Francisco is bigger than you, and Jose is smaller, and Pedro is just the same size." Kusi gave up. He did not know how many children there were or whose names and sizes fitted whom. Suddenly, he did not care. He felt in holiday mood too. What did it matter? What did anything matter? He was part of a family. He was part of a family. He was part of a family. Far away, or did he imagine it? He thought he heard Misty's golden bell tinkling, tinkling. Find a family, find a family. Kusi was happy. Kusi was bursting with happiness. His golden sandal bundle rested comfortably against the singing in his heart. Mamita hurried Papita along. Papita hurried the children. The children pushed each other and laughed and whispered, "What's your name?" "Kusi," the boy whispered back. "Oh, that's not a saint's name. That's an Indian name. We will call you Nicho. That one is better." Kusi did not want to have a saint's name. He wanted his Inca name. But no one listened to him. Papita stopped at a bay to look in the windows to see the people dancing. He made Mamita and the children look in the windows to see the people dancing. Kusi thought it was funny and laughed. And everyone laughed with him to share his pleasure. Then Papita spied a fortune man with his fortune-telling bird. For a centavo, the man would tell the bird to pick out a fortune for the person who had given the money. Papa lined up the children to find enough centavos for each one. Mamita spied Kusi. "That one," she screamed, and tears of laughter streamed down her face. "That one is Indian. He does not belong here." "No?" Papita was surprised. Then, seeing the hurt in Kusi's eyes, he said quickly, "He belongs here now. I choose him." All the children danced around Kusi, saying, "This one is Nicho. We choose him to belong to our family." Mamita wiped her eyes and joined the children. "Yes, Nicho is the new one." Kusi was pleased, and yet he was not pleased. He wanted to be part of a family. He liked this one. They were fun. They were fun. But he did not feel that he really belonged to them. He felt as if he were playing. Then, too, his name was Kusi. He liked what his name meant. Nicho, to him, meant nothing. Mama and Papa and the children seemed to think all was settled. He was with them. That was enough. Papa had enough centavos, and everyone had his little paper roll fortune that the bird gave them. Kusi's read, "Grieve not if you're searching circles." Mama was comforting. "Many fortunes are like that," she said, "just words, not meaning anything." Kusi said nothing. He had heard these words before. They did mean something. What it was, he would know someday. Of that he was certain. The afternoon slowly turned to evening. Mama and Papa and the children were still having fiesta. Kusi was tired, but he was happy. It was wonderful to know how a family acted when they were together. Gradually, he was able to join faces and names together. Francisco was the oldest, a boy about 12, probably. He was very quiet, so much more so than his noisy brothers and sisters. He reminded Kusi of Chuto somehow. Quickly, the boy put the thought of Chuto from his mind. The lonely old man in the lonely hidden valley had no place here in this fun-loving group. Mama began hunting for a place for them to sleep. They would not be ready to go home to their little ranchito for days and days. In the meantime, they would need shelter. Papa hunted for food. He found the market eating place where stewed meats and coffee and cheese could be bought for a few centavos. He hurried his hungry flock along, loudly proclaiming that it was easier to bring goats and sheep to town than girls and boys. When time came to pay for the meal, there was chattering and searching. Papa had almost enough. Mama had a little more. Finally, Francisco found the remaining needed centavos and gave them to the man for the food they had eaten. Papa laughed. "See," he told Cusi, "it is this way with a family. Those who have anything share it. Those who do not have anything." Papa laughed and spread his hands out shoulder high. "If they do not have it, they cannot share. It is nothing." Everyone laughed. They thought Papa had made a wonderful joke. Everyone but Cusi. Cusi felt the golden sandals beneath his poncho and did not laugh, because he did not feel he could ever share them. After the meal was over, Mama found just what she had hoped to find, an empty room belonging to a friend of her aunt's cousin. It was her turn to hurry her tired family to shelter and to sleep. Nicho, the new one, as they called him now, was put to sleep between Francisco and Pedro. Francisco and Pedro slept, but sleep would not come to Cusi. He was not used to closed shelters. His bed had always been under the night sky, beside the sleeping Misty. Somewhere a small bell tinkled and an owl hooted. Somewhere a church bell rang, and somewhere people danced to stringed music. Somewhere an old man sat before a smoldering campfire. Somewhere a proud black llama stayed outside a city gate. Stealthily, Cusi got up. All around him in the room were sleeping people, Mama and Papa, Maruca and Carlita, Jose and Francisco and Pedro. They were nice people. He liked them. He would remember them always. But he did not belong to them. He belonged to the Inca. His heart was among the mountain peaks in a hidden valley. Stealthily he stole out of the room and down the dark cobblestone streets to the gate in the city wall. The same guardsman was at the gate. "Where do you go, boy?" he challenged. "To my llamas," Cusi answered. To his llamas. His heart sang to hear the words. Nearby, a llama bell tinkled. "Find a family? Find a family?" A proud black llama stood alone against the night. Cusi stumbled forward. "Misty," he called. "Come, llamas, come, llamas." "Find a family?" Misty's bell tinkled, and with a soft, glad cry, Cusi answered, "Yes, my llamas, come. We are going home."